I just did this whole video and I was not recording. So I'm gonna try to do a little bit better this time because I was stumbling over a lot of my words, a lot of my thoughts. Now I kind of know what my thoughts are gonna be about this situation. So we're just gonna jump right into it, man. This video is gonna be about some recent remarks Michelle Obama made at the Democratic National Convention on day 2. Basically saying, yo, reparations will not happen. Reparations is not a thing. Don't even ask for it. Don't even expect it. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. The same thing Black Americans have been saying all along. We're just gonna play the clip and then we'll get into it.
Has shown her allegiance to this nation, not by spewing anger and bitterness, but by living a life of service and always pushing the doors of opportunity open to others. She understands that most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth. If we bankrupt a business or choke in a crisis, we don't get a second, third, or fourth chance. If things don't go our way, we don't have the luxury of whining or cheating others to get further ahead. No, we don't get to change the rules so we always win. If we see a mountain in front of us, we don't expect there to be an escalator waiting to take us to the top. We put our heads down. We get to work. In America, we do something.
Oh man, she said a mouthful.
Kamala.
You kind of have to read between the lines with these people and what they're actually saying, because on the surface it sounds like she's giving this speech that kind of appeals to the true core American values, the patriotic values that everybody, you know, looks at America as. Like, you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You got to be, you know, you got to pay your taxes, and you got to, you know, you got to build yourself up. And those are all noble thoughts and beliefs. And I do think there's room for meritocracy. I think that is a very, very, I think that is a noble pursuit. But it's not like she didn't say the word reparations here, but when you put 2 and 2 together, she's basically talking about reparations. She's talking about Black people specifically in reparations, because who else is generational wealth and affirmative action speaking to? Black people. We're the ones who have been separated from those ideas for as long as we existed. You know, these are not things that would, these are not handouts. These are things that would be owed to us if it were, you know, actually, if there was some semblance of possibility that they would ever do that, which they will not. But we're gonna go through this clip like one by one and kind of break it down a little bit.
Kamala has shown her allegiance to this nation, not by
Kamala has shown her allegiance to this nation,
spewing anger and bitterness, but by
not by spewing anger and bitterness,
living a life of service.
But by living a life of service. So that right there is like, she's already setting a blueprint for what it is to be an American. Like I said, we the typical patriotic stance from the early 1900s into the 60s and whatever. The whole thing about being an American was, you know, you're proud to be an American. You got your guns and you got your rights and you got your free speech, and nobody can tell you to do nothing. But, you know, if they had those privileges, you're going to have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Nobody just gets handed anything out here unless you're a slave owner and you're literally being handed people off of a boat for pennies on the dollar to build all the riches that are still running most of these lofty institutions today. But that's neither here nor there. Let's continue.
And always push.
Oh, and let's not forget life of service. You know, again, that we like to push this idea that capitalism it gives everybody a leg up. It puts everybody on equal footing. I don't think that's true. I think that the goal of capitalism is to always have a class of servitude. Always. There will always be a serving class. That's why she said living a life of service. That's what I would say, serving your country. Ask not what you can do, or ask not what your country can do, but what you can do for your country. That's what they say, right? It's never been about big up in the little man. It's been about the little man keeping the big man up above them, or the big man keeping them beneath their feet, whatever. And but astoundingly, they have found a way to make us a nation of bootlickers. I'm gonna do a video about that one day, but we are willingly a nation of bootlickers. We literally beg for our oppression, and it's kind of scary. We'll continue.
Pushing the doors of opportunity open to others, she understands that most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward.
Let's go back a little bit.
Her allegiance to this nation, not by spewing anger and bitterness, but by living a life of service and always pushing the doors of opportunity open to others.
So we can't be angry or bitter about some of the most sadistic, heinous crimes in the history of humanity. No, you can't be angry and bitter about that. Just get over it. You know, even though they don't ever like people get over the Holocaust or 9/11 or all sorts of other atrocities that affected white people the most, or at least affected their psyche. But when it comes to black people, oh, you can't be angry or bitter. And you always have to push that opportunity open, the door open to others. You always have to make room for everyone, not just black people. Even though so many others in this country have gotten favorable treatment and literally handouts. But if you're black, oh, you can't do that. Let's keep going.
She understands that most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward.
And she's talking about white people there, because, well, I don't want to say just white people, but there are a lot of people who can fail forward, basically meaning no matter what you do, you're always going to have a leg up in this country, whether it's nepotism, the name of the family you come from, the color of your skin, whatever, whatever class you were born into. For a lot of people in this country, they literally can do no wrong. We've seen from so many of the reports that have come out of all the crimes of the Epstein list and the pedophiles and the rapists and the racists and the murderers and all kinds of stupid stuff. And a lot of those people they just get a slap on the wrist, if anything. They keep all their wealth, they keep all their riches, and life just moves on. We see this big scandal come out, and then next thing you know, 2 hours later, something else comes in to push that out the news cycle. So no one ever really gets a chance to be outraged enough to make a difference and actually bring people to justice. There's just too much going on. Let's continue.
We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth.
We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth, meaning we will never get reparations. And she's specifically talking to black people and about black people, even though she didn't say it. She said neither black people nor reparations, but that's what she's saying here, because who else do those two ideas appeal to in this country? Who else is owed those? I would say owed. Who else is owed those dues? Our ancestors built this country. They built this country on the back of our ancestors. This is not some handout. This is not something we're asking for, something we're begging for. This is something that's old. Something that, but I mean, if we can get into the biblical aspect of this, we could be all day on that, really. But the Most High said that this would never be the case for us in this Babylonian system. We'll never get what we're truly owed. I mean, it's far beyond money at this point. You really think the Most High's restoration is going to come in the form of paper that comes off of trees with dead presidents inked into it? Dead white presidents? You really think that that's how the Most High is going to deliver his reparations for his people, that his true reparations that we're owed? Is far deeper than money, far deeper than money. But she's saying here in this clip, we will never get that. This is her way of establishing and killing the reparations argument once and for all on the grand stage. Anybody still clinging to this idea that they're going to give us anything, y'all are just delusional at this point. And to continue voting blue no matter who, based on identity politics, based on this rosy idea of what you think they should be doing for us and not what they're actually promising and what they're actually showing to be doing in their actions, because they have walked back quite a few different things. I don't want to call them promises, but they were doing a lot of dog whistling. And before Biden's election, because they were going to do anything to try to get Trump out of there. But the reality is they always find a way to yank the rug from beneath us. Let's continue.
If we bankrupt a business or choke in a crisis, we don't get a second, third, or fourth chance.
No, we don't. And to be fair, that one is true for almost all of Americans, except for the ones who fell for it and don't really have have big safety nets and all that. But yeah. I mean, that's just a market capitalism, right? And so, but that's another way of her kind of trying to spread this idea that everybody's on this equal footing. Like if you start a business in Vail, you have to pick yourself back up by the bootstrap, just like everybody else, even though we know it's not that simple. That's if Black people can even get funding in the first place. I've personally been denied the ability to open a business bank account on multiple occasions from a particular bank that I'm not going to discuss right now. I just say Chase Bank. Chase Bank I'm good, bro. I mean, I should have been left Chase Bank knowing, like I said, their existence is all thanks to slave catching. I mean, I don't even know why I'm with them at this point. I've been with Chase as long as I can remember, the moment I had a checking account. Just haven't moved everything over because, I don't know, laziness, I guess. But I can't even get a business bank account with Chase. Most Black people will not get any, significant business loan unless they find a way to actually create wealth and generate income through businesses that are proven, which is, again, fair. But yeah, it's a very rare occurrence, much rarer than you think. And, hopefully we'll get into more about how we can circumvent some of these hindrances that our people suffer through. But for now, let's continue.
Things don't go our way. We don't have the luxury of whining or cheating others to get further ahead. No.
So if we simply call out the factors and the forces that are working against us, we're whining. And if we ask for what's rightly due to us, we're cheating others. Even though people are coming over the borders by the boatload and by the busload, getting free housing, free food, free money, thousands of dollars for each of these migrants from our taxpayer dollars, while most of our people on the streets are actually, I don't say most of them are taxpayers. There are a lot of people on the streets who are actually taxpaying citizens, believe it or not. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it is a majority. I don't know if y'all been on YouTube lately. Everybody's romanticizing van life and, people doing DoorDash and Uber Eats and Uber out of the same car that they sleep in every night. And they're paying taxes on all that money they're making. All that money they're making, it's going right back to Uncle Sam. And it's going right back into, they have to pay taxes on the gas that they're using to fuel those cars and to keep the maintenance up and all kinds of stuff. Tax-paying citizens don't get any help. That's a problem. If you think that, if you don't see what the issue is here, you're just lost. And I think most people don't, and that's the problem with this country. That's the problem with the society. That's why it's going to hell in a handbasket. Let's continue.
We don't get to change the rules, so we always win.
When have we ever always won? We have never won in this country. Not once have we ever gotten anything handed to us. We have had to fight every single step of the way. The only way we can fight now, and I'm glad to see it, is sheer education. Our people are more educated than ever. We are more successful than ever. I love that. I love that for us. But we had to earn that. We had to fight for that through education. And we will continue to as long as we need to, because that's just the kind of people we are. We have always overcome. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. If they had their way, we would be extinct from this planet. But the Most High is not going to allow that to happen.
If we see a mountain in front of us, we don't expect there to be an escalator waiting to take us to the top. We put our heads down. We get to work.
We get to work.
America, we do something.
In America, we do something. You see how she tried to wrap that whole thing up as if she's talking to all of the American people? Make no mistake about it. Most of that message was about and to black people. Because there are a lot of black people screaming about reparations right now. And this was a nice rosy way to kind of appeal to their inner pride while at the same time shutting down that idea and kind of land it on softly so they can secure your vote and make you think that they have something that'll help you out in terms of all these tax credits, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's another video I want to jump to real quick. So that was Michelle Obama at the DNC telling you basically, yeah, no reparations. Don't even ask for it. Shut up. Stop talking about it. Let's move on. Look at her eyes. Look at her face. She knows exactly. Look at this. Look at this. I wish I could zoom in. Can I zoom in? I can't really zoom in on a face like that, but look at her face, man. You know she knows you know she know she's trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. These people are evil. I'm sorry. I do not like the Obamas whatsoever. Like I said, I think they're all puppets. They're all puppets. But whatever. Let's go over to this clip of Kamala Harris. This was right before the 2020 election. I believe this was the point she was still in the running for president before she took the nomination to be the vice president for Joe Biden. So let's just listen to this clip on what she feels about reparations.
Do you support reparations for black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country.
Okay, so now that you're done stating the obvious and expressing and showing that you know a little bit about American history, because American history is black history is American history. Let's see what she thinks about actually doing anything about that. All of those, ungodly hindrances to black people's progress over the years.
And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at...
No, I could never do anything that only benefits black people. No, heavens forbid. Never. She could never do that because it's not in the playbook. It's not in the Democratic playbook. 1 second, y'all. Oh, we had a frog in the throat. But yeah, she could never. This is not in their playbook. She doesn't control anything. She would never control anything if she were to get in the White House at that moment or in this moment. She answers to a higher power, and it's not the Most High. Let's continue.
The reality of who will benefit from certain policies. when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people.
What?
Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. So I'm
Say it
not going
again?
to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people.
One more time?
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people.
That should tell you everything you need to know right there. Do you think she's changed in the 5 years since she made this statement? I don't think so. It disturbed me how many black people actually agreed with this statement and when she made it. You know, they're willing to take anything they're spoon-fed just to get the black woman into office. This is like their Super Bowl, right? This is the first woman president, the first so-called black president. You know, we'll get into how that's not true really, but another time. But it's a masterclass in idolatry on a mass scale. In ways that, like I said, maybe we'll get into another video. I don't want this one to get too long. But she doesn't want to do anything that's only going to benefit black people. Whatever our policy I instate is going to help all people, and inherently that's going to help black people. See, but we forget. This clip was back in 2019. It's 2024 now. Inflation is at an all-time high. This tax credit she was talking about was to give a $15,000 as a $10,000, $15,000 tax credit, whatever, to families making under $100,000 in household income, which she proclaimed at the time is about 60% of black households, which I don't even really believe it, to be honest. Because, like I said, a lot of us are super educated, highly skilled, and things have changed for the better overall in that regard. But there are still a lot of forces working against us in these workplaces, these business institutions, in all sorts of ways. But inflation in 2024 has eroded the middle class. You making over $100,000 does not guarantee you a good life anymore. For most people anyway, specifically more those people who have kids, multiple children. You know, you're a homeowner, especially if you're getting in lately. I mean, you're paying these inflated prices at these high interest rates. Your expenses right now are just through the roof. Groceries are up 30%, gas prices, insurance, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of nonsense. The price of goods, just random general goods, everything. So this tax credit, if she were to get elected, and if it were in position today, probably wouldn't help nearly as many people as she's proclaiming here. So, and then what is a tax credit anyway? Let's go ahead and pull it up. What is a tax credit? A tax credit is a dollar-for-dollar incentive amount that taxpayers can claim on their tax return to reduce the income tax they owe. Eligible taxpayers can use them to reduce their tax bill and potentially increase their refund. Okay, so this is a post-income credit that lessens the blow of how much you have to give back to this country. You're already getting taxed on everything under the sun. You're getting taxed on the money you make, and then you get taxed on the money you spend, and then you get taxed just for living and breathing. So, but you know, you can get more of that money back that you shouldn't even be paying for. I want to say 80% of it to this greedy and overinflated government. But okay, so at the end of the year, let's say I make $80,000. I'm under that $100,000 threshold. I get a $10,000 tax credit. I can take. So let's say I pay out of that $80,000. Let's say 80,000, 30% of 80,000 is about $24,000. So of that $24,000, I can take $10,000 off. My taxable income is only, oh, I can take, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing math right. I can apply 10,000 to that 80,000. So let's take it down to 70,000. So 30% of that 80,000 would have been 24,000. Now all I have to owe is 21,000 because I was able to get that $10,000 tax credit. $3,000 in tax savings is not really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Let's be real. Not in this climate, not in this economic environment. Maybe if it were 50 years ago when, you know, a bag of chips cost a nickel and you could buy a house for $5,000. But well, I don't say $5,000. That's kind of disingenuous, but it was a lot cheaper than it is now, especially in proportion to the salary. Salaries have barely gone up the amount that the housing has. But $3,000, okay, that's if you even get a refund. If you get a refund, and if you do get a refund, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that $3,000, depending on your tax situation and all that. And that's only for people making under $100,000. So her new policy in this round is a housing credit, since housing has become so affordable and unaffordable and unattainable for so many. Now she wants to give a $25,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. Again, this is a post-tax, post-income benefit. So I don't see how it's going to help people who are impoverished, who can, on the meager wages most people in that class make today, can't even afford the housing because they're spending most of their money on rent and food and gas and all kinds of utilities. They can't even afford to buy the house. So what good does a tax credit do if you can't even scrounge up the pennies to get the down payment? Oh, well, we got these 0 down payment assistance programs. So you don't put any money down, you get a 30-year mortgage, but you're going to probably be paying like a 7% interest rate over 30 years. You're going to be paying $200,000, $300,000 more than the house is worth if you don't pay it off early, which I would hope, in the perfect world, your income would just go up and up and up, and you always have the money to put more toward the house and pay it off early and never pay all that interest. You're going to pay some interest, but not all of it. That's not the case for most people. Let's be real. It's not realistic for most people. Those 0 down loans are a scam, very dangerous. They're very predatory, and I don't want to see what the aftermath of that's going to look like. And I think that might come sooner than we think, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm just on the sidelines eating my popcorn. I don't have a crystal ball. But yeah, apparently this $25,000 tax credit is her magic bullet for this election. They like to say, "Oh, we're going to give every American $25,000." No, they're not. No, they're not. This does nothing for the average American right now. Most people can't even afford to get into a house if they haven't already gotten into one. I'm glad for those who are. I can say for certain I'm not able to right now, and that's okay. I say actually a choice of mine. I actually have different plans for how I want to live my life. I might go into that in another video, but it doesn't involve tying myself down to a 30-year mortgage in a country that's going to shit and going to hell in the handbasket by the hour. So yeah, she's not gonna do anything that only benefits black people. Let's hear it again.
Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No. Whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole in the country.
No, it's not. Only people who's going to benefit are those who are lining her pockets. It's going to benefit her because it's going to benefit them. Because they're going to pay her to play the stooge and get all of y'all to line up for this oppression that they're getting ready to bring down on y'all. See, Biden was only the beginning. Matter of fact, Obama was only the beginning. It started even well before then. And don't get it twisted. This ain't just about the Democrats. The Republicans ain't, they're guilty too. They ain't innocent on this thing. It's two sides of the same coin. Two birds of a feather. That's what two feathers of a bird. That's what this is. The Republicans they've had a hand in this too. It's like a ping pong match. It's like they're knocking the ball back and forth, and they're using this dual dichotomy to fool you into thinking that you have a choice in how this plays out, and you really don't. Biden lulled you to sleep. I mean, I saw it the moment he got into office. February 2022 was when everything changed. That Ukraine war. We'll get into that in another video, maybe. A lot of people think this inflation and all this crap going on today was due to COVID. I mean, that was a big part of it. Don't get me wrong. That was a huge part of it. But COVID alone didn't do this. That Ukraine war was another catalyst for the sinister plans that they have been carrying out and that they want to continue carrying out over these next 4 years. Basically stripping you of all your rights, stripping you of your ability to operate as an independent citizen, to make money, to actually make a name for yourself in this world, in this country, to own something and to build something, to think that you have solid footing and to think that you have equal footing with the corporations that enslave us, or most of us. Even if you feel you're free, you think you're a business owner, you're making a lot of good money right now, great. That's great. What's going to happen when they drain this economy of all its value? The dollar is already just, bro, it has no value. Not nearly the same power it used to. It's backed by nothing. Like I said, inflation, they just keep printing money. Inflation has eroded the middle class. You're never going to, I mean, a lot of people are chained to these golden handcuffs. I don't care if you have $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, $1 billion. I don't care. Because if what you're doing with that money, the more you do with that money, the more you're going to have to pay. The more you're going to have to stay chained to this system because they're going to want their cut. That's the only way the system can thrive. $32 trillion in debt. They don't intend for that number to go down. That's why it has not gone down. They don't care. There's no way they can get out of this hole. $32 trillion, and they just keep printing money left and right. The GDP has gone down. They just put out a report that the jobs numbers were super inflated by like maybe 1 million, if not more. I think it's even more, to be honest with you. They're being generous. They didn't want to shock people too much. But 1 million is a huge discrepancy from what they've been trying to tell us about these jobs. Because there's a lot of people out here looking for work and struggling and can't find nothing. All these layoffs, all these store closures, all these bankruptcies, all these mergers, those jobs don't just like they have. I'm sorry, they dissolve into nothingness. How do you get them back? How do you get them back when you're $32 trillion in debt and the number just keeps rising and rising and rising, and we just keep shoveling money to migrants and Ukraine and Israel and all these other countries and all this foreign aid and never doing anything to help the American people actually get ahead? The only way that you can build the GDP is to incentivize spending. People can't spend if they can't even afford to live. They can spend on their living, yeah, just to survive out here. Most people are eating up most of their paycheck just to survive. How are they going to spend on these businesses that are going to generate the tax revenue to potentially chunk down that national debt? They can't. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. Anyway, one last clip. This is Joe Biden from, again, before the 20. Well, this is actually after he got the nomination and got elected or selected to be president. This was after that. So he did all this pandering to black voters, saying, if you don't vote for me, you're not black, and all this and that. And we're going to promise, they didn't really promise anything, but they also did not promise anything. They were really towing that line carefully. But right after he got in office, this is what he had to tell some of the black leaders in our country,
it is doomed,
including Al Sharpton. You can see him sitting right here on the right.
not just because of African Americans, but because
Oh, wait. What did he say?
equity. This country is doomed
This country is doomed.
on racial equity. This
Hold on.
significant progress on racial equity. This country is doomed.
Doomed.
It is doomed, not
It
just
is
because
doomed.
of African Americans.
Not just because of
because
African Americans.
by-
This country was doomed because of African Americans. That's why it's doomed. Okay. I'm not sure where that statement comes from and what his thinking is behind that, but I mean, he says not just because of African Americans. Apparently, that's the primary cause in his eyes. Let's listen to the full clip.
This country is doomed. It is doomed, not just because of African Americans, but because by 2040, this country is going to be minority white European.
By 2040, this country will be minority white European. They've been saying forever, like the black population only makes up 13% of the American population, which if you still believe that at this point, man, I just don't know. I got a bridge and beachfront property in Arkansas to sell you. It's just, it's not, it's just, bro. Like, but anyway, I don't believe we're the majority necessarily, even though I see a shit ton of black people everywhere, but there's a lot of other people in this country too. I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't have a magnifying glass. I don't have a satellite to peer in on every corner of the American soil and see who is populating what and how many. I don't know. These census reports they come out with, I mean, you can't trust that stuff either. They manipulate these numbers all the time. But he said that by 2040, this country is going to be minority white. How do we plan to get there? How are you so sure about that? Let's hear it.
Hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do.
What? You all are going to have to start working with the Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do. You might be right about that. I mean, like I said, they're bringing these markets in like it's nothing, man. Like, and to be honest, I mean, even before that, I mean, we had open doors way before that, but now they really trying to push them in. They're really trying to push them in, and they're trying to push them into every corner of the country, and they're trying to give them all the resources, all the housing, luxury apartments, thousands of dollars in food stamps, thousands of dollars in vouchers. They're getting preferential treatment in the job search. You know, they're filling the low level jobs especially faster, while our people are finding a hard time just even getting into some entry level. And not to mention all the college educated people with degrees who can't use their degree because there are no jobs. There are not enough jobs for them, and even if there were, I've seen certain industries where, I mean, the industry I'm in, it is whitewashed. It is completely whitewashed. It's like honestly, it's like looking for raisins in a white potato salad. When I go into some of these companies, it's bad, y'all. It's bad. They're gonna give preferential treatment to their own first and foremost, especially for those higher positions. For these low level positions, which Trump called, I guess, black jobs, whatever that means. Yeah, there's not a lot of those to go around either.
In terms of raw numbers, we're going to have to be working with a whole group of people that, in fact, are the single most diverse democracy in American history and anywhere in the world. And we got to figure out how to unify this country. And you've been the leaders of being able to do that.
So we're going to use you to unify this country. We're going to make you team up with the Hispanics. And because they're the majority, they're probably going to have the bigger say than you because they're the majority. So you're going to have to get in line with them. Actually, you're going to get in line behind them. Do we not see that happening today? Like I said, they're getting all these benefits from taxpayer dollars while taxpaying citizens are living on the streets. Van life, romanticizing homelessness. People putting this on like a badge of honor to have to work 3, 4, 5 jobs just to make it. And even then, like I said, some people can't even they're finding it impossible to get out of this whole. A lot of people, there's a lot of self-inflicted stuff going on here too. A lot of people living above their means, but a lot of it is also predatory. These college loans, these mortgages are insane. But that's on them. That's, you know, we all have to do our own research to understand what we're getting into. You know, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my short time here on this earth is do not sign anything that you are not 100% sure about, that you have not read, especially, and that you have not done your due diligence and research on. If you don't think that you can sustainably pay something like a mortgage over the life of over 30 years, which if you look at the history of this country, how could you? You know, there's like a 10 to 15 year stopgap and reset every single cycle that forces people to start over. It's like, I mean, obviously there's certain people who aren't as affected by that as others. You know, those who have won the lottery of good business and a good family name and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, there is going to be another time in this country where those pockets will be drained one way or another. It's already happening. It's already happening. Inflation has done a number on most people's savings. A lot of people with retirement, not even a question right now. Right now, the question is, how do I get to my next meal? How do I make sure I pay my mortgage next month and my car note and my groceries and my utilities and for my kids' stuff and this and that and all the crap I bought 5, 10, 15 years ago that I'm still paying off today because I put everything on credit cards and take out these high interest loans. People thinking stuff is going to be sweet forever. And there's never been a period of history where that's ever been the case. There's been, I mean, the strongest dynasties and the strongest empires have fallen. And I don't see how y'all don't understand that cycle will repeat. It always repeats. It has to. Because the moment like I said, we're the most educated and successful generation of our time. The moment they see you trying to climb up to the top of the mountain, they're going to cut it down. They don't want people at the top of the mountain with them. They need people beneath the mountain to keep them at the top. The mountain cannot stand without a base. Just like you have the iceberg in the water. The tip of the iceberg is above the surface level. At the bottom is a much bigger base that's keeping it afloat. That's exactly what this is. If that bottom melts, if it melts and disperses evenly across the ocean, there's no iceberg. There's no, the people at the top don't want everybody to succeed. They need people. They need people to suffer. They need people to step on to get to the top. It has always been that way. It will always be that way because this world is sick and it's broken. And that's just the plain truth. And if you don't see it at this point, you're just delusional or you're just completely lost. And I don't know, at this point, it just feels like there's no hope for some people to understand this. And subsequently, no hope for us to change anything about it. So this video is about 40 minutes long. I think that's about as much as I want to talk right now. And yeah, I guess just to wrap it up neatly, if you made it this far, no reparations. Don't even expect it. We can get into the biblical justification behind that in another video. But I just wanted to put this one out here because the election season is hot. It's ramping up. And they're seeing a lot of stuff on that DNC and RNC stage that sound nice. But you got to learn how to read between the lines. And you got to learn how to read people. Like I said, this face, look at her. Look at this. Look at this. She knows she don't want to do nothing for y'all black asses. She don't want to do nothing for y'all at all. Y'all just gonna, all right. Shalom. We're done.